Case study. Case title: Ford's return to India. A road less traveled? Target audience: MBA students, management practitioners, business leaders, entrepreneurs, business enthusiasts, auto sector enthusiasts, global strategy enthusiasts. Domain: Global Strategy International Business Course. Case length: around 1000 words. Teaching duration: 60 to 75 minutes. In late 2023, the Indian auto market buzzed with surprising news. Ford Motor Company, the iconic American automaker, was considering a comeback in India. 2 years earlier, the company had dramatically exited the Indian market after decades of underperformance and over $2 billion in losses. But now, whispers of new investments and re-entry strategies were surfacing. At the heart of this decision was a simple yet complex question. Had India changed, or had Ford? A historical detour. Ford first entered India in 1995 in a joint venture with Mahindra and Mahindra. Over the years, the company launched several vehicles, from the Fiesta to the EcoSport, some gaining modest traction. But Ford never truly became a household name in India the way Hyundai or Maruti Suzuki did. Its offerings were often seen as too premium for the mass market and too basic for the luxury segment. In 2021, citing poor sales and a lack of sustainable growth, Ford announced its exit from vehicle manufacturing in India. Plants were shut, dealership networks wound down, and thousands of employees were impacted. For many, it seemed like the final chapter. And yet, 2024 brought a different perspective. India's passenger vehicle market had grown by 9% year-on-year. Electric vehicle EV sales were surging. Several states had unveiled policies to attract green manufacturing. And with Tesla's ongoing delays in launching in India, the playing field appeared open once again. Rewiring the Indian consumer mindset. Ford's leadership team, based in Dearborn, Michigan, knew that if they wanted to re-enter the Indian market, they couldn't just restart old engines. The Indian car buyer of 2025 was not the same as in 2010. Fuel efficiency remained a priority, but so were digital features, safety ratings, and after-sales service. Moreover, consumer attitudes toward American brands had evolved. Fast food, clothing, and entertainment from the US had permeated daily life in metros and tier-2 cities alike. Yet, this cultural acceptance didn't automatically translate to cars. Ford's challenge was deeper than taste or preferences. It was about aligning the brand with aspirations. Past campaigns that emphasized "Built Ford Tough" didn't resonate with value-conscious buyers who were comparing Bluetooth connectivity and service costs rather than torque and horsepower. Future campaigns needed to be less about Detroit grit and more about good gov convenience, policy potholes, and political signals. There were also regulatory challenges. While India had liberalized its foreign direct investment policies in the automotive sector, tariff structures on imported cars remained high. Moreover, the Indian government had grown increasingly vocal about the need for local manufacturing and job creation. Ford's exit in 2021 had not gone unnoticed by policymakers. Why should we roll out red carpets for companies that walked away? One bureaucrat asked anonymously in a media interview. Trust had to be rebuilt, not only with customers, but also with government stakeholders. To that end, Ford began behind-the-scenes negotiations. There were discussions about converting its Chennai plant into a hub for EV production. Partnerships with Indian suppliers and tech firms were explored. Unlike the past, where Ford operated largely independently, this time the model considered alliances and co-development, maps, markets, and manufacturing. One critical factor in Ford's rethink was logistics. India's vast geography, diverse road conditions, and uneven infrastructure posed unique challenges. In comparison to compact markets like South Korea or Germany, India was a labyrinth of climates, terrains, and buyer segments. This affected not only product design, but also distribution. What worked in Kerala might not work in Kashmir. Inventory planning, spare part availability, and dealership training had to be more localized. A one-size-fits-all model, which Ford had leaned toward earlier, was ill-suited to India's landscape. Ford's new plans included multiple micro-warehouse to reduce delivery times and partnering with local logistics players to improve reach in rural areas. EV charging infrastructure, while still developing, was also a key consideration, especially if Ford planned to introduce electric SUVs or sedans. Price tags and purchasing power. Perhaps the most critical challenge remained economic. While India's middle class was growing, price sensitivity continued to dominate automotive decisions. Ford's previous lineups were criticized for being overpriced relative to features offered. Spare parts were expensive and service turnaround times were inconsistent. To address this, Ford evaluated whether it could develop an India-specific platform. This meant engineering cars not only for Indian roads but for Indian wallets. Could the company offer the digital bells and whistles while keeping costs low? One internal proposal was to reintroduce the Ford Figo, but as an EV with modular pricing, allowing buyers to add features a la carte. Another option was a small SUV priced under 10 lakhs rupees, potentially branded as an urban smart explorer rather than a rugged off-roader. Ford also weighed the idea of financing partnerships to reduce the upfront cost burden on buyers. Subscription-based models, already being tested in Europe, were on the table. So was the idea of offering battery assay service to reduce EV sticker shock. Final lap of fresh start? For Ford, the road back into India was filled with paradoxes. The market was more attractive than ever, yet harder to penetrate. Consumers were digitally savvy, but still price conscious. The government wanted foreign investment, but with strings attached. The leadership team had to make a decision soon. Competitors like Kia and AMG had quickly captured mindshare and market share. Indian firms like Tata and Mahindra were aggressively expanding their EV portfolios. Waiting longer might close the window altogether. Yet, jumping back in without recalibrating could result in another costly failure. As Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, reviewed the India comeback proposal on his desk, the document didn't just contain sales forecasts or plant revival costs. It represented a chance for redemption. Would Ford take the U-turn back to India, not just as a manufacturer, but as a brand reborn? Discussion questions for students. What should Ford do differently this time if it decides to re-enter the Indian market? Identify key challenges Ford may face in terms of customer engagement and product strategy. How can Ford rebuild trust with policymakers and suppliers after its prior exit? Considering the evolving EV landscape, what role can electric mobility play in Ford's comeback? Should Ford partner with a local firm or go solo again? What are the trade-offs? This case can be used to learn the concept, the Cage Distance Framework. It is a strategic tool created by Pankaj Ghemawat to help companies evaluate and compare potential international markets by looking at the distance between the home country and the target country, not just in terms of geography, but across 4 key dimensions. Cage means cultural, administrative, geographic, economic. First, cultural distance. Differences in language, religion, social norms, values, and consumer preferences. Example, a US food company may find it harder to enter India due to dietary restrictions, vegetarianism, avoidance of beef pork, and taste preferences. Second, administrative or political distance. Differences in political systems, legal frameworks, colonial ties, trade agreements, and institutional structures. Example, countries with friendly trade relations and similar legal systems often make market entry smoother. Third, geographic distance. Physical distance, transportation links, time zones, and climate differences. Example, even if two countries are culturally similar, long shipping times can raise costs and slow market response. And fourth, economic distance. Differences in income levels, economic size, infrastructure, and customer purchasing power. Example, Selling luxury cars in a low-income market may require major pricing or product adjustments. This framework helps businesses quantify distance beyond just miles and understand the barriers and opportunities in a foreign market. The framework can also be used to decide whether to adapt, standardize, or avoid certain markets. For more management case videos, like, share and subscribe to the channel, The Case Was.